Hey everyone. I've been having a lot of conversations with accounting firm owners, and it's funny that they came up around the same time I'm actually preparing for a webinar in a few weeks, and they sound almost exactly the same. They say things like, my team won't follow the processes. I have them documented, but they just won't follow them. And nobody uses our task management system. Everything just like goes into overdue, or they just don't even log in at all. And everyone keeps asking me questions all day long. And that's all I do all day. And I can't get anything done because I'm constantly being interrupted. And if I don't answer them, the work actually stalls. Maybe you've said one of these yourself. Now, here's what's interesting. Almost every owner jumps to the same conclusion, and I did too. I guess I need better processes. I need to document things better. I probably need to train my team again. I need to get a different task management system because maybe it's the system. And don't get me wrong, those things absolutely matter, but what if they're not the real problem? And I want you to think about this for a minute. If your team isn't following the process, is it because they don't know it, or they don't know it exists? Or is it because they don't understand why it matters? Because as I've worked with accountants for the last 6, 7 years, one thing I noticed with every accounting firm and every accountant, we may all get to the same bottom line, but we all do things differently. We all have different processes. We all have different systems, and we all have different ways of getting there. And so even when you hire with experience, you're still frustrated. And that's where they keep asking you questions. And is it because they aren't capable? Absolutely not. Or is it because they don't know what decisions they're allowed to make without you? And this is a big one. This is one that I see a lot of times, is a lot of times people don't know what decisions they can actually make. And if no one is using your task management system, is that really a software problem? No, it's not. And sometimes what I've seen with task management systems, it's you may have one person using the task management system, but then you may have 3 others that are not using it. So then it's useless. And that's where things become a bigger problem. And that's why everything feels so difficult. And that's what keeps you in this micromanagement role that you feel like you're in, of just a constant, I call it a hamster wheel, where you're just kind of doing this all day long and you're not accomplishing anything. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the years is this: systems don't create that accountability. People do. A task management system can't create ownership. A documented process can't create trust. And software, it can't fix unclear expectations. But a lot of times we think these 3 things can actually fix the expectations, but they actually can't. And those things come from leadership and communication. The system simply supports what already exists. I always tell my clients, if your team keeps bypassing the product, don't start by blaming the process. Get curious. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself, what are they telling me? And I always say, is this a process problem, a system problem, a leadership problem, or a people problem? Because a lot of times, the people problem is the very last thing. And I'm not saying that there's people that just don't fit in certain businesses, because that's absolutely true. But if you can eliminate the first 3, then it's clear what the problem is. But a lot of times we don't go through that process to get to the root, because maybe the expectation isn't clear. Maybe the process doesn't match how that work actually gets done. And a lot of times what I've seen in processes is the very first part is actually what's missing. And so then the team just goes and they try to figure it out. And that's where all the questions come, because once that first part is missing in a process, they assume the rest of it is missing too, or it doesn't make sense. Or maybe this is a big one. They've learned that no matter what the process says, you'll answer the question anyway. That's exactly how I trained my team, because to me, it was faster to spout off the answer. But I had to train them to go look at the process, go to the system. So if that's the case, then the behavior makes perfect sense. That's why I believe the question isn't, why won't my team follow the process? The better question is, what is our current behavior teaching the team? and see how that shifts something. Because if you say, and we have processes, but every time they have a question, they just come to you and you give them the answer on how to do it, then you're teaching them behavior of to just ask you. And that's why we become the bottlenecks, because teams don't just follow documented process, they follow the culture that the leaders create. And this is another thing that I have also seen when leaders say they won't use the task management system, a lot of times it is because the leaders are not using the task management system just the same. So then why should the team use the task management system? And I know one of the things I have to debunk constantly in our coaching program is what we say, do as I say, not as I do. Well, teams follow what you do. So that's where you have to get clear. Okay, am I establishing what I want them to do? And that's exactly what I've been thinking about as I've been preparing for this webinar. And we're going to dig into why firms with great people and great systems still struggle with communication, accountability, and owner dependency. Because the answer isn't another piece of software. Let's be real, friends. We all have more software than we know what to do with. And a lot of times, we don't even have all of that software implemented. We have pieces of it. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of people have so many software subscriptions. When I look at accountants' books and try to figure out like what is going on with their pricing and different things, I look at how many software subscriptions and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're paying for like 4 different softwares for the same freaking thing. Because it's understanding the human side of this, the human side of teamwork. And that's where we're going to be diving in, is beyond the systems, but actually how to create teams that take ownership. So I'd love to know, what's the biggest frustration that you have when it comes to getting your team to actually follow your processes? Either comment below or feel free to send me a DM, because that's what the problem a lot of times is we spend so much time documenting processes, or we feel like they're a waste of time, and so we don't do them because we're like, well, nobody will follow them anyway. But we end up answering questions all day long, and therefore it creates this bottleneck that you're stuck with day in and day out. So, and if you would like the link to the webinar, I will drop the link below, and I would love to have you on there, because if you're feeling anything of what I just described, I would love to have you on that webinar. It's July the 9th, and I would love to have you there. Hope to see you soon.